Hello guys and gals, welcome back. Today we're looking at how to drop. Some say a science as old as time itself. Anyway, you can't call yourself a DJ, producer or musician in this game if you don't know how to drop. So I thought it would be fun to look at the subject through those three perspectives. Let's go. Right, so we're starting with the fundamentals. And what better place to start than with this tech house track I've got here. This is very much inspired by the likes of Ewan McVicker and Odd Mob. It's all the old school fundamental DJ tricks. In other words, what can you do with this tool set? The classic DJ setup. We've got a couple of decks, and our mixer gives us EQ, filter, delay, reverb, and usually one of the modulations like a flanger, chorus, phaser, etc. What can we do with that? And the overarching concept that I want you to walk away with today is what I call starve and deliver. We simply starve them of something and then we deliver it back. So that could be starve them of frequencies or starve them of groove, and then we give it back to them tenfold. And that's how we drop. So they do say with a limited tool set, you are forced to be more creative. And there's no better example than with what we've got here. This track is simply made up of a single sample, which is then joined by our drums and bass. That's it. There's no greater way to learn how to drop than with just those few elements. If we can make that work, we can make anything work. So let me show you what the sample is. This is an old South Asian trap project I did a while back. Dropped like this. That kind of thing. Anyway, I have both sped and pitched that up. Sounds like this. To bring it up to tempo, which is 128 in this case. And very much like the Odd Mob classic left to right, I've spent a whole minute manipulating that sample until we are joined by our main beat. Let me show you what is going on. Okay, let's look at the build here. This section. Now, a real DJ, which I am not, would probably perform this live, or hopefully perform this live, whereas I've programmed it so we can break it down to its various elements and look at what's going on. So here's our automation lanes. You don't have to really look at those. You can keep an eye on these parameters down here. So this is our DJ delay. By the way, the default timing for a typical DJ delay on a mixer is dotted eighths or 3/16. So set your delays to that to recreate that kind of effect. Here we have a reverb and we have our filter, low pass, high pass. So we start with our sample filtered. We've removed the high frequencies with the low pass, LP, low pass, and we're slowly bringing those back in. It's on a 1-bar loop. You'll notice this delay creeping in. And now we shorten the loop. And you can see the reverb is increasing. So we're going to make this wetter, more ambient. We're going to remove the low frequencies. We're going to be starving. And then just before we drop, we dial it back to let them know what's coming. Like that. So to recap, we starve them of frequencies with the filter, top end, and eventually low end. We starve them of the groove by shortening the loop and also complicating the groove by adding that dotted eighth delay. We then starve them of all groove by washing it out with the reverb till it just becomes ambient noise. And then the drop is opposite that. The low end comes in, everything is dry, no delay, no reverb, which is a deliver and starve. If you think about it, we've delivered lots of ambience to then starve them in the drop. So it works both ways. And the side chain from the kick drum kicks in as well to make the loop pump, which is also different from the build. So technically we're delivering a new groove there as well. Okay, that's a good starting example for an old school DJ drop. Let's move on and look at how a producer might approach this. Right then, what better place to look at production than some drum and bass? Because drum and bass producers overproduce everything. No, I'm joking. I'm joking. This is Subfocus style. Now, as a Brit, I must disclose, I am aware this is not where drum and bass started, but it's certainly the, let's call it the international version. I'm a fan of both, but in the context of talking about production, this kind of style is certainly the better example. Anyway, so drops from a producer perspective, say that 5 times fast, producer perspective, are not much different to a DJ's. We're still looking at the starve and deliver concept. We're still using our delays, filters, reverbs, etc. But now we have access to a few more tricks up our sleeve as well. We have access to arrangement. We have access to parts, stabs, pads, bass, individual parts, and we have access to a whole plethora of helping effects like white noise, risers, sweeps, drum fills, clap drops, etc., etc. Anyway, instead of describing it, let me show you where this production is at right now.
Come alive for one night, let your body lead your mind. Can't deny, 'cause it was written in the sky. Come alive for one night, let your body lead your mind.
So the first difference, we have a pre-chorus. If this was our verse, here's our pre. Listen out for the risers and drum fills coming in. And listen out for the reverse of the lead. Okay, let's break that down. So we start with a calm verse section. So here's the first fundamental change. We can manipulate ambience and mood with parts, not just our effects. And we start with a pad, which has an ARP over it. It's running down the scale. We have a riff come in, which is mimicking the piano to come. So this is our first sound swap. We swap to piano. Okay, so there's one fundamental difference. We can swap sounds. We have at least 10 tracks of special effects noises here. We have bass dive, riser, drum fill. White noise, reverse cymbal, cymbals, clap drop here, clap smash, whatever you want to call that. And we also swap over from the vocal melody to a lead that mimics the same melody. Which is reversed in. So lots of starving, delivering, swapping. It's like a bait and switch almost. You think you're getting one thing and then suddenly it swaps to the other, but it is still related to what came before. Another thing that's delivered is our bass. And that modern kind of screamer sound bass. Something that's not there at all in the verse or the pre. So another thing drum and bass producers have started to do is a bait and switch on the entire groove. You think you're getting drum and bass, but we actually drop to kind of trance. Okay, so there's another way to do it. Let's look at a musician's perspective. Okay, what can a musician do to help a track drop? What does that version of Starve and Deliver look like? Well, I've lined up a few examples here. We're back to our old favorite piano house. Just in case any of you were getting withdrawal symptoms. Thought I'd better keep the regulars happy. We've gone for Tommy Vercetti style this time. And the first example is what I'm going to call hold and fill. So the concept here is we have this piano riff, which is changing chords, i.e. it has a chord progression. Let me show you what this sounds like. Let me take it out of the filter a bit. So this is a progression using chord 6, chord 1, and 5 on a 4-bar loop. So one trick we can do is to starve them of chord movement. We can tease the full progression to start with. Halfway through, we stop the chord progression moving by freezing the loop to the first bar so that we stay on chord 6. We can keep shortening the loop DJ style until what I call the fill section. And instead of a drum fill, what's going to act as our fill is basically us just releasing the chord progression so we let it back all the way around. So now we let the chords finish their turnaround. This is chords 1 and 5 in this case. And that acts as our big indicator that we're coming back round to the full progression and the drop. Like a drum fill. Let me show you how that sounds. Now we loop. Shorten the loop. And now we release the chords. Like that. So that's hold and fill. Now the next concept I'm going to call hold and release. So this is just a concept where we hold our main line, in this case our piano, on chord 1. But we do that because our main riff doesn't start on chord 1 normally. So we're going to use chord 1 as our suspense builder, and then we're going to release it into its full progression where it starts and drops on chord 6. And that sounds like this. And we still shorten the loop. Okay, hold and release. So for the next example, this is kind of the reverse of the hold and release. I'm going to call this the bait and switch in chord terms. So obviously chord 1 is strong. So if we start our main riff on chord 1, this progression uses chords 1, 6, and 3. We can suspend them on any other chord. I've chosen 6. So our entire intro is built on chord 6, but then we drop with a progression that starts on chord 1. And that sounds like this. like that. So for this last example, this is almost more of a production trick, but it's a bit of both. We've got what we call the anti-drop. So what we're going to do is build with the expected elements, like the piano, but then we drop with just a kick drum and a bass. That's a very common arrangement trick in lots of forms of house music. And then last but not least, another thing a musician can do is change up how we play the riff. So this has the same chord structure and the chords change at the same time, but the rest of the riff is played differently, apart from the turnaround, which we keep. So it still nods to the original riff. It'll make sense when I stop talking. So here is the original going into the new. You see, it's a different rhythm. Oh, also another little bonus trick there for the video, what we call miss the one. So nothing played on the one apart from the piano. I chopped out everything else. And everything, including the cymbals and the bass, comes in on beat 2 of the bar. So you get this kind of holdover. Have you ever driven over a bump or hill too fast in the car and you get that floating feeling? It's like that little moment where you get some air just before you land. Anyway, another cool trick you can employ. Miss the one. Okie dokie. Be it DJ, producer, musician. Now you know how to drop. You know everything. Literally everything. Go ahead and make a hit, and if you're feeling generous, include me in the royalty. Nice one, thank you. Bye. No, I'm only being semi-sarcastic there. Hopefully that did give you some insight into the art and science of the drop. If it did, I have to say YouTube things, like, comment, subscribe. They make me do it. I don't want to, but they make me do it, honest. Anyway, help me out whichever way you see fit, and I will see you in the next one. Bye-bye.